Hamas has not defeated Israel, but inflicted a major blow, that now that momentum is going to carry forward, and other terrorist groups are going to say, see, we need to duplicate that. And again, we've seen that already in history coming out of the Afghan jihad against the Soviet Red Army. So, and we've seen that with our experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan, where we basically have retreated and withdrawn. So I'm really worried over what I call that spillover effect that we will see in months, but we will see in years from now, Nancy. That spillover is probably going to haunt us. I hope I'm wrong about that.
Thanks, Bob. Excellent points from the beginning all the way to the end. I agree with you that one of the main things, it's really understanding that Palestinians are not all Hamas, right?
Yeah.
And it's the Israeli government, not Israel or Jewish people, even living here in America, right? I know friends calling me, hey, Nancy, do you know people that want to come and work details at synagogues? And of course, you're seeing now all the different attacks. The horrific one of the little Palestinian child stabbed multiple times, just horrendous and heartbreaking. And that shouldn't be happening, right? But people need to be educated and really understand and be able to differentiate. Hamas is a designated terrorist organization, and the Israeli government is responding. And you said it with force. And I'm saying eye for an eye, but this is beyond eye for an eye, right?
Yeah, right.
But historically, that's how it's been between Hamas and Israel.
Yeah.
Israel would, attempt to assassinate Sheikh, and then Hamas would conduct a series of suicide bombing attacks.
Yep.
And the opposite, right? And I can't imagine that Hamas thought, we're going to do this massive infiltration and Israel's not going to respond. And they had to know they were going to respond with tremendous force. And like you mentioned that they're trying to prevent casualties, but it's just inexorable, right? Like,
yeah, it is. It is.
Every war is going to have
and
casualties.
you're speaking of the tragedy of terrorism, right? Nobody wins.
Yep.
Nobody wins in terrorism. They really don't. And I so much agree with your point. Like, look, and obviously, Iran is behind this all. What you and I call the Iranian threat network. Iran calls their axis of resistance, right? And so I kind of chuckle even watching the TV today that the U.S. government hasn't come out and explicitly stated that Iran was behind this. Of course they're behind this. They're behind this by the mere fact that they fund, they train, and they equip Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hezbollah. Those links are known. Those links are admitted to by Iran. So, of course, they have a hand in these attacks. We don't need to look for any other smoking gun beside that. Yeah. But again, I make the point, our battle is not with the Iranian people. Most Iranian people I ever work with love America and love Americans. There's a natural affinity. There's a natural affinity. And I know you speak some of the language and you worked in the Arab culture. There's a natural affinity between most Arabs and Americans. They're family oriented. They're friendly. They believe in that hospitality. Persians, Iranians are the same way, as you know. So our problem always is with the regime and the people in power, the extremists, who are, probably not acting under the wishes of the majority of their people, quite frankly, right? Even though street demonstrations may echo otherwise, quietly, most of those people don't agree with what their governments are doing, and they have to be quiet about it. So, this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better, and there's going to be more tragedies and more innocent life lost. I think Iran's going to get possibly more involved. I think Hezbollah, which is in southern Lebanon and the north of Israel, is going to even attack more as Israel moves into Gaza. We could see other terrorist groups around the world start attacking Israeli and U.S. interests. There's a couple red lines, though, I want to make for your listeners, in terms of Hamas in the U.S. So what is Hamas in the U.S.? Yes, they're in the U.S. You and I know that. Hezbollah is in the U.S. What are they doing here? They're raising money, like they always have been, sending it back to their group in Gaza.